If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. If we could go around the table and just have everybody state their names, starting with Mrs. Bites.
Carol Bites.
Rob Hurley.
Connor Kurtz.
Brian Doty. David Raskev.
Rich Martino, and I want to thank you for saluting the flag. That isn't done in all our committee meetings, and it should be.
All right, I'll have to get that on the agenda because it's not listed. All right, second up after call to order is elementary staffing. Oh, and Mrs. Kiesel's at the table too. All right, thank you for joining us. Next up is elementary staffing, and this is just for the committee to be updated on what's going on in terms of our enrollment numbers, and Mr. Hurley is going to just give us that overview.
Okay, if you take a look at the sheets that are in front of you, it looks like this. Just to kind of give you an idea, the ones that are bold is how we are currently staffed. If you see the number of sections. On the right, you can see the average class size as we are currently enrolled. Some things I want to highlight to you right now would be our current enrollment in kindergarten at MEC, it is 112. Okay, that puts us, we are currently running 5 sections. If we were to stay at 5 sections, we would be over the guidelines. I want everyone to notice that. At first grade at MEC, our average class size is 24.2, which also puts us over the guidelines. And then in third grade at MEC, we are at 24.3, which also puts us over the guidelines. So I wanted to bring those things to your attention right there. It's just where we're at right now in terms of enrollment. Included with these numbers, just so you know, as of very late this afternoon, we included the most recent enrollments based upon people that are coming into our school district. If people called and said, well, you have an appointment for tomorrow, they let us know, and we put them in there to the best of our ability. Obviously, something could happen at 5:05, or real close to that, but they're pretty darn close at this point in time. So that gives you an idea of where we're at. MEC is where we've gone over. Obviously, we're very close to the limits at AEC in a couple grades, and that's pretty self-explanatory. In the spreadsheet itself, you can see the red dots indicate that you're over enrollment. The green dots indicate that you're within your guidelines that the board has set up.
Looking down at AEC for kindergarten, for example, there's a red dot, but it shows that we are under the suggested guideline.
Yeah, and that's a good question, Connor. If we do that, we are under suggested guidelines right now at 17.5, running 4 sections. However, if you run 3, you're over your suggested guidelines. And it's kindergarten, and so for those we're still probably going to get a little bit more enrollment, at least there before. But either way, you're going to be over or under in that situation.
All right.
All of those that are under like that, if you do, I just didn't do the math, but all of them are like that show, because there's third grade. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Yeah, that's the only one that's under.
Yeah. Okay.
What are the impacts on staffing from the previous meeting? Any changes from this, or?
In terms of, we've done our recalls at the high school level, so we've already done those recalls. We also had a 4th grade recall, and that person's been recalled over at AEC. So, and that was because someone resigned.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Are there any questions from the committee on these numbers?
Well, but Rob, I think what Connor's asking is how is this going to impact the furlough?
What would happen is we would bring back, if we were to bring back people, we would need 2.5 positions is what we would look like. Based upon the most recent information I have today, that would take care of the 2 people that are on the callback list. I believe the other person has a job at another school district, but that we need to get that confirmed in writing. So if we were to actually call back to get within guidelines. Does that answer your question?
Is that what you would need, 2.5 to get within guidelines then?
Yeah, I would need two positions very clearly, and The kindergarten position, from talking to Melanie, she said she could, if there's a gifted teacher who's taken off the odd section right there, she could have her do the sixth section right there, and then told me she would need a .33 position to fill that gifted. But that's real close to, you're in a .5. The question is, do you want to, have that .5 service some other students, or do you want to go to a .33 to service the gifted? And that's based upon her gifted enrollment currently at Monocacy. Would that be correct, Mrs. Heffner?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. What would your recommendation be to bring us within guidelines?
Well, to be within guidelines, we need 2.33 positions to get us within guidelines.
Okay.
2.5 would give us her a little more wiggle room to do some other things. That's certainly within the board's discretion there. Okay.
But just so we understand, the 2 would be people that receive furloughs.
Correct. The 2 would.
The other position, be it .33 or .5, you're going to have to hire.
Yeah, we would have to rehire someone to do that particular position if indeed the information we received over the phone today from the one teacher is accurate. Okay.
So, one thing we haven't considered, I think, because look down at, let's see where we're at. Okay, so I guess I think we lost. Was fourth grade at AEC up to was that like 131 like last time?
Yeah, they go up and down. Almost, I've sent so many of these out. I mean, almost daily it goes up 1 or down 1 or up 2, down 2.
So I guess my question would be, and with everybody that's here, so some of these we might be over by a child or 2 in a class, but then if we add a teacher, then we're under our recommended numbers. So what does, if we were to specifically add hire or add an aid to help that class or that grade level out, what does that do? Does that do anything?
I mean, if you were to add a hire, that would certainly drive your class sizes down.
No, I'm saying an aid.
An aid would certainly be helpful to a teacher if large class sizes would help them individualize instruction, if that were an approach the school board would agree with.
I mean, is that something that you think would really be beneficial?
We would certainly benefit from them. Hey, educationally, we could benefit from all of that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about, is there a compromise situation where we could not have a full-time teacher bring back, but at least provide some help?
We could certainly benefit from that, and the kids would certainly benefit from that from an educational standpoint.
All right. Is there any other discussion on this?
Well, we want to go to the voting meeting with a recommendation, right? So what should we all agree on?
Well, let me just go back to this aid business for a minute.
Yeah.
If you hire back the 2 teachers, you have no classes over.
Which scenario illustrates what would happen if we hired 2 back? What am I looking at, all the greens?
If you would hire the 2 back, if you look at 3rd grade at MEC/BEC columns over there, and if you would look at right now, the bold is 6. We're running 6 sections over there. It would go to 7 sections. So that would bring your average class size to 20.9. So it's the one that is not bold.
So that would change that scenario.
Yes.
What else would
The other one would be 1st grade
at MEC?
at MEC/BEC, so it's MEC. Okay, and that would bring our class sizes, if we did, to 20.7 students. And then at the kindergarten, you would see it would bring us to 18.7, okay, at kindergarten.
So there's one teacher would teach both 1st grade and kindergarten?
No, we have what we'd probably do, tentatively, our plan would be, if you were to bring that back, is we have a person teaching, kindergarten is half day, so we have them doing a half day kindergarten and a half day gifted, so we'd probably have that person, and we'd like the flexibility to do what we need to do for kids. We'd probably have them do a full day kindergarten, and then we would look at, all right, how do we meet the service needs of this gifted students? And right now, the way it looks is we need to rehire someone for that percentage, so we'd be taking that gifted teacher to fill out the kindergarten piece right there, and then we'd hire for gifted.
They're all needed at MEC, BEC?
right, to stay within guidelines, that's where it's
What's
needed.
this 26 for fourth grade option on AEC?
On AEC 26,
Fourth grade option 2.
you can see that puts you below your guidelines there at 21.6 if you go to 6 sections.
Right now, we're at 5.
You were at the top of your guidelines right now with 5.
So all the greens are where we're at, is that what you're saying?
All the greens say it's good, you're within guidelines. That's
The
what the
bold
greens.
says where we're at.
The bold says where you're at, the green indicates that.
I made
it's
that
within
same
guidelines.
mistake too.
Bold on the left is where we're at.
Mhm.
Right? The bold
Okay. Well, I mean, how I approach this, we have the guidelines for a reason, and our staffing is to reflect what our policy says, and our policy includes these class size ranges. So to me, that would indicate that we have to make sure that our staffing can accommodate those ranges,
Yeah.
which would indicate, I think, that we would need to bring those people back in order to fall into policy.
I agree.
Is there some sort of dollar figure on that?
That would be helpful to know.
We know what the average is,
Well,
so,
it's very specific, though. We're talking about very specific people going back.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we should be able to calculate that, seeing as we know.
And first
know
grade
that
AEC
information.
is not out of compliance, even though it says 23.25?
Did you say first grade?
First
Yeah.
grade AEC, I'm saying 23.25.
Yeah, because 24 is your guideline,
Yeah.
so you're slightly below.
Yeah, the way I look at it, we need to make sure that our staffing reflects our policy, and if we don't want to go with the policy now, then we need to change the policy. But if we're not going to do that, then we need to make sure that we're falling within it. So I guess the recommendation from the committee in order to follow policy would be to bring back, you say 2.33 positions?
We would need that, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
2.33 or 2.5, I mean,
But if we've got the numbers.
The 2.5 just it would allow us to help other students. It would help us with class size. If class sizes went up suddenly somewhere else, would help us with at-risk students. It would help us. The person won't just be sitting there twiddling their thumbs. We can use that person. What we're trying to be is transparent with you about, based on our current numbers of gifted, what we absolutely need. But we can use that. I mean, that extra 0.2 or whatever can help us.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
all right,
an
so
extra 0.17.
Yeah, thanks.
do we want to do the 2.5 then?
I would like to see us do that, and that if it helps out and helps these kids, because I think to me that's where there's a lot of need, and we can actually affect some progress there.
All right. So,
And if I can add a piece to that, that is also our Title I school over there, and so there are kids with some needs, and that can definitely help us if we go to 2.5.
all right. So in the interest of moving the meeting along, does anybody object to making the recommendation to the full board calling 2.5 positions? Is there any objection? Okay, that will be the recommendation to the full board. All right, moving on to item 3, textbook review process. This is just a discussion I wanted to have among the committee members. We had an issue at the voting meeting a few meetings ago about textbooks, and this has been an issue in our district, I think, for a while. Just we have a lot of textbooks that are out of date, and I don't know if there's a system, or if there is a system, it's broken, and if there isn't, there should be, to make sure that our textbooks are current. And not just textbooks, but all learning materials. I know some courses now don't have textbooks, but I'd like there to be some type of formal process for when we get textbooks or learning materials, they're entered into a database, and then we're able to follow those books as time goes on, and we're able to determine when we need to order new ones. So I just kind of want to have a discussion there. Maybe some work has been done to get there. Mrs. Kiesel, do you want to maybe give an overview?
Sure.
Thanks.
This past fall, I believe, I don't remember exactly when, but what I've done is worked on a curriculum implementation plan, and I believe I did share that with the CNI committee, but I do have copies just to refresh your memories. And what I believe is that textbooks should be purchased through the curriculum implementation plan. In other words, you just don't want to say we need textbooks and, this year.
Yeah.
You need to look at the model that we built for curriculum implementation. And if you'll notice, during year 2, that's when the committees review and propose textbooks.
I remember talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you see at the top, it's, I called it proposal, so I guess we never
Because
really
we never
went
adopted
anywhere.
this. Okay. I thought it was just going to.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something, I mean, I don't know if this is like a procedural thing, but do we need to does the board need to say, oh, we want to adopt this process, or can you just do it?
Well, some of these things, the administration, they can do internal things on their own. If we're going to change the way we've been doing something, it's good to have board direction there. And if there's policy involved, then there needs to be board action.
And you do approve textbook
Yes.
purchases, so that's
Yeah.
part of the
That's true.
And that's critical, and that hasn't always happened in the past, and that's required by policy. So it's good we're doing that. But how do we keep track of the textbooks we have now? For example, 4th grade AEC civics. How would I know what textbook we're using?
I'm not sure. I think it may have been you, Connor, or someone suggested that we build a database and put all the material in that I've been gathering this year through needs assessment, so that we have that database that illustrates this is the textbook, this was when it was purchased, maybe a column.
How many we have?
Right.
Yeah.
And we have condition.
Right, and all those things, and that's something that Scott and I can work on. We've already discussed.
That would be excellent. And if every time we order new textbooks, like let's say we order 10 of these American government books, we'll add that right onto the spreadsheet, and we'll just keep going, and we'll be able to see when it was purchased, and maybe every 5 years we'll revisit to make sure we have a current book. That'll have to be determined what that time frame will be. It will probably depend on the course. Certain courses change frequently. Yeah.
So there may be a couple of different reasons for textbook purchases. It may be because certain books are just unusable and it's too expensive to rebind them or whatever.
We shouldn't have books that are being used, say that Dick Thornburg is the governor of Pennsylvania, and I think I saw that.
Right.
So when could we expect that database to be reasonably to be completed? Would you think a month or two? The database of which we're
Oh, the
speaking.
data. Scott's not here. I would have to consult with Scott,
Okay,
but I
could
can
you
get back to
us?
you.
'Cause
Sure.
I have no idea the scope of the project, so we
Sure.
don't want to put any unrealistic demands on these.
Yeah.
So you can just give us a time.
Beginning of the year is always a little bit busy with, schools
Sure.
opening, but after that, I
Sure.
can work on it.
So, a couple things that I've noticed. I mean, obviously, I'm sure that the refreshing cycle obviously always comes back to money, right? So, but a couple things that I've seen. We got into this discussion with the AD biology books that we were, and we had a discussion of where do we get them from? Do we get them used? Do we use Amazon? We should really come up with a list of vendors already that we automatically go out and bid these to. The other thing that I've talked about before, does it save us money to start to maybe get in some e-readers or Chromebooks and get these things online? Is it cheaper? Is it not? If it's cheaper, does it justify getting these to begin with? I think it seems that we've had some rush items here too. I know we're using Go Math. We used the Go Math to come up with the core standards, correct? And we had a discussion of was the Go Math really the right one to go with? But it was too late. We already had Go in a couple grades, and we had I'm concerned that we're getting the correct decisions for these things. That's my input there. I did have one question under year one analysis. What it's great to get out and do some due diligence and visit other schools, but how does that really come into the curriculum? Is that something that you could do without actually visiting the school? It says visit school with the following program. Assuming you're visiting other districts.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it would be beneficial to, whether it was myself or a team of teachers or even the director of technology, because technology is a component to this proposal as well, to look at what your technology needs are, because really your technology should be supporting your curriculum.
Right, sure.
So I think that's important.
When we're reviewing curriculum, I mean, we have curriculum for every course, correct? I couldn't imagine, I mean, that would be a lot of visits if we're going to...
Right.
Yes, I would add...
You don't need to do it for
I would
everything.
add something in there if necessary. Or,
Yes, these are
yeah.
examples of things you might want to do during that year. It doesn't mean that you need to do every
I could see
single...
with something really outside the box that they're
Exactly.
doing.
Right,
You wanted to-
right.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying now. Yes, not absolutely necessary and not for every subject.
Well, I guess then what I'm getting at, and I'd like to come back to this, we should take action on it. What would happen? Like, what were the required steps? For example, in year one, under analysis, what's the absolute minimum that must be done when evaluating curriculum? Year two, what is the minimum? And then you can have, for example, you can add extra things like visit schools with quality programs. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, where's the bar? And then if we want to, if the staff wants to exceed that bar, what are some extra things they could do?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like a must-have
Yes.
in each year or each phase.
Like if these are all just examples and all we have right here is a chart that says year one analysis, year two design, like there's no concrete steps.
Well, I think you want to give yourself some flexibility.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, for some of these things, say for instance, examine student performance data, that should be done every year, but especially during that year. So
Yeah,
you
so-
want to do a needs assessment and see where you are before you make any changes.
So that's where we're getting
Yeah,
at
I
here.
really think step one is getting that database, then we can find out what are our oldest
Right.
textbooks, and then really are they, I mean, I guess something, I mean, obviously Shakespeare doesn't change, right? But, obviously, some things.
I don't think textbook purchases drive the curriculum cycle.
Right.
I was gonna-
No, they do not.
Like changes in Harrisburg or just when the last curriculum was written for a particular subject is more the driver.
I was going to throw that out there, like what. So let's just say, because one of these things is examine student performance data. So let's just say some of your oldest material content in your curriculum also happens to align with some of the strongest scoring that you have. Then what? Like, what do you, if that's like some of your oldest textbooks, like, 1 + 1 is always 2, right? So, that's not going to change. But is it a problem with the material or a problem with the curriculum itself? Are there new standards that we have to achieve? And then where are those gaps?
Exactly. Yeah, I think we have to know what we have, and then we need to look at that in comparison to what we need to be teaching.
Right.
And if they don't meld, then we have to make a change.
Right.
So that's what, for the next meeting, if it would be possible to come back with the chart just like this with the required things that must happen, and then examples of extra things that could be done. And also, I would like to move this on at some point in the near future to the full board when we would, like for example, I'm sure you're going to have to stagger. You can't do every course. Like every course can't be in year
Right.
one at the same time. So if you can come up with a priority list, for example, we're going to look at, we need to look at 4th grade math curriculum. We need to look at civics. That'll all be year one. And then,
Right. And
Yeah.
this year, we were pretty much forced to begin in year 2 with the PA4 alignment. So that's the reason we're having to do the core subjects immediately. So this year we did, and we're still working on English, language arts, and math, K to 12. most all of the work done. There still needs to be some work at the high school level. And then next year we'll go to social studies and science.
Okay, if you could even, I think I might have asked for this at the last meeting, take the same chart and just list the courses, like where they currently stand in this
So,
process.
Kind of a matrix.
Yeah, exactly. And we can see as they move through,
Okay.
and we can see a schedule
Sure.
for doing it in the future. And I think that would give us a good basis to
Sure.
discuss next committee meeting. So those are the two things, just the concretes, what have to be done, and then where each course stands in relation to the matrix.
Sure.
All right.
So what I see as absent is, at what point does the team get together, come together as far as, who are the players in the...
Well, for instance, this year 2, that we're doing the actual curriculum writing. I do have a team of, we call them core mappers. So they are the people that represent their teams.
Right, but I mean, just broadly speaking...
They change.
I assume, is it before year 1? Is this the presumption already made that you have your team together before you start the analysis phase? Or is analysis phase where you put the people, the team together?
I would think you would want to begin your team, right, with the analysis.
And as part of that process then, inviting board members or maybe
We could.
public, parents. But I would really like to see it.
Could certainly do that.
As opposed to employees.
Mm-hmm.
To some measure, I know certainly the experts have to drive these things, there's no disputing that.
Okay.
I'd like to see that, if possible.
Sure. Another.
Let me ask, what was the topic?
The topic is textbook review process. So we are getting a little bit...
Far afield, because, I mean, normally this matrix here, you're going to be buying textbooks a couple of years from now. So are we not going to buy any books this coming year?
I don't think that's...
Well, I think that the
Well, what I'm
text.
saying is there needs to be a piece in here about a process for submissions to the business office.
Yeah, that's a good point.
To go through the whole approval process, so we don't wind up with what we had last year.
Yeah. And if there could be a process that we could put together, like once we get to that point on the chart for each course, because it's going to be completely loaded up at different times, courses are going to be in different areas. When it comes time to order textbooks, what is the process for researching where to get them, how many we're going to order, which book
Are we leasing
And I think, Mr. Martino, what you're referring to is especially occurring at the high school with new courses. And so we do have preliminary high school course approval document, and that does give all the information that's necessary for textbook purchases, like the title.
Course and curriculum are actually separate from textbooks, aren't they?
Textbooks support the curriculum. Yes.
There is a step on here, Mr. Martino, in the design phase where it says they're going to make a proposal for textbook. I imagine at that point.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's year 2.
Right.
Right. But I'm talking about this year, are we not going to need any textbooks this year?
Well,
I think that's why we did approve GoMath.
Well, I think what Mrs. Kiesel was saying earlier is that we're in year 2 for a lot of courses.
Yeah, we had to just jump into year 2 because our standards, our
So
curriculums weren't along.
when we get that list of courses and where they fit onto this matrix, we should know what textbooks may be in the pipeline.
Right. But then shouldn't this include the process to go through the business office?
Yeah, I think that it would be great if Mrs. Kiesel could work with Mr. Small to come up with a process for looking into those textbooks and ordering them and bringing it to the committee and that whole and the board approval process. Like just a step 1 is this, step 2 is this. Maybe there's a form that needs to be filled out. We're throwing a lot out there.
I'm curious, why would the business office approve it if this is something that goes to a board level anyway?
No, it has to be approved by the board, but there
Right.
should be a process with the business office. I mean, everything goes on a purchase order.
Sure.
We bring the
It's
estimate.
just cutting a PO, like, yeah, just
Just
whatever
bring
the
the
dollar
estimate.
figure is.
So next year, I think what Mrs. Keese was saying is social studies and science is going to be the first manifestation of this process. She's going to start at year one, because this year they're still putting out the fires for PLA and math. Next year, when she starts the social studies and science, she's going to start with the analysis.
Actually, we're starting social
You've already
studies and
started
science
that
at year 2.
Yeah,
at
so we'll,
year two.
Yes.
so we'll get all of that information at the next meeting of where the courses stand, and I think we can have
I
a
think we should
discussion.
get reports too, then, where
Oh,
we're
yeah.
at in this cycle for each.
Absolutely. When items move, yeah, this is
That we know we're on track, we're on the third year implementation.
exactly, and that way this committee, and by extension,
Yeah.
that we can stay abreast of what's actually going on in regard to every single course, and that's something invaluable.
For those 4 subjects, I guess you're telling us right now that there is curriculum being rewritten throughout the district. So if you could bring us a
And-
report of where they all are.
And this year, it is a little bit different because we already had the math textbooks, at least at the elementary level, they were purchased.
Right.
But we,
Right.
so we kind of put the cart before the
Right.
horse.
I
But-
understand, understood.
All right.
And would you like to
Yeah,
take
sure.
over this?
Thank you.
So are we just monitoring then, the ELE and the math at this point, have we wrapped that up? That's all I'm saying, if we can get some sort of sense of where you're at with all the rewriting that's
Right.
that you are doing.
This year, we are in year 3 for the math and ELA.
So we'll get again all of that information
Yes.
at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
right.
that would be great.
Great.
Thank you. That's a nice snapshot for us to know where we're at.
I think we gave Mrs. Kiesel a lot to work on for the next meeting. Does anybody have anything else on this topic, or can we move on? We have a pretty packed agenda. All right, great. Next up is something I wanted to discuss here, employee recognition. I had the opportunity to intern at an agency, a government agency that really recognizes achievement among their staff. And I realized that we don't really have a teacher of the quarter program or an employee of the year program, and I think that would be very good to recognize exceptional staff.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see a program to do that, to publicly recognize.
Nominated by their peers.
Well, I think we'd have to discuss that, what the criteria would be and who would make the determination. I'm guessing the superintendent at the end of the day would be the one to make the call. I think there should be a nomination process. Teachers can nominate other staff members, and I think it should be open to all staff.
Mrs. Trainer used to do something very similar
Okay.
to that.
Well, I'd like to see that come back, and I'd like there to be even a suggestion box on the website. For example, a parent, a student can nominate, anybody could. But I'd like to I'd like to recognize employee of the quarter and at the end of the year, an employee of the year. And maybe we can set up a quota where 3 of the employees will have to be teachers and 1 has to be any employee can go above and beyond the call of duty.
Support staff.
Yeah, even the support staff. I don't want to limit it,
Right.
but I want to make sure that we're recognizing. I don't want. You understand what I'm getting at? Everybody should be
Yes.
eligible. But I think that would be very good in terms of what we could give. The place I came from gave $250 for an employee of the quarter. I don't know if that's something. Obviously, we'd have to take this to the board. I don't know if we want to offer some type of cash incentive or just public recognition may be enough. That's something to ponder or to discuss. I don't know. Perhaps a proposal could be put together for the next committee meeting. We can bring it to the full board and we can discuss it there.
Free overhead projector.
What was that?
Free overhead projector.
For the overhead projector? All right, so I think that's some direction for the next meeting. Does anybody have any objection to going down that route and to investigating this and
No.
hopefully? All right, great. So that's moving. All right, next up, item 5. I'd like to hand the floor over to Mr. Martino to introduce this next item.
Many, if not all of you, are aware that my granddaughter just completed kindergarten. And early this summer, I had the opportunity to speak with 2 of our kindergarten teachers. And somehow the conversation morphed into a presentation on Networks Kindergarten that we did not get in the spring. So from that conversation, the two teachers and myself then met with Mr. Curley and Mrs. Hefter. And they are here tonight to give us a presentation on At-Risk Kindergarten. What I told them I'd like to see, and they may not have it all ready tonight because they didn't have all the time in the world for it, but I told them I'd like to see, one, what is At-Risk Kindergarten, because several of the board members, myself at least, are not sure what it is. Two, who does it benefit? Three, how does it benefit them? Four, what does it cost? And five, how is it paid for? So having said that, I will turn it over to the two kindergarten teachers, Mrs. Kimberly Murgatroyd and Mrs. Johanna Latimer.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Kim Murgatroyd. I'm a kindergarten teacher at MEC, and I've been doing kindergarten pretty much my entire career. I went to first grade for a year. It was a great experience. But I've been in our district for, this is my 11th year teaching.
And I'm Johanna Latimer. Similar story. I've been in the district. This is my 11th year. I went to second grade for 2 years, and kind of in the middle there, which again was a great experience to kind of see where the kids are going. But spent the rest of the time in kindergarten. I came from kindergarten, a different district as well before that. And we're lucky enough to found each other along the way. we enjoy working together and push each other to do things like this.
So we want to begin with what is at-risk kindergarten and how can it benefit our district. The first thing we thought we would talk about is what is an at-risk student.
So we kind of wrote almost like sort of like what is this, kind of a definition of what it is. So it's used to describe a student who is temporarily or ongoing interventions, which means that it's a student that needs extra support in order to succeed academically. An at-risk student sometimes can be referred to as at-risk youth. And they're students who, in adolescence and going to adulthood, can have difficulties transitioning to school. They can have a hard time getting a job when they grow up. It kind of affects them their whole life. It's not just when they're little at 5 and 6 or 8 or 10. It follows them throughout life.
So these are students who really do need extra support from support staff, from reading specialists, math interventionists, any kind of support we can give them. They need pretty much all of it.
Why are they at risk? There's many factors. It could be many different things that can come from for why. Emotional or behavior problems. It could be problems at home. It could be that their attendance is poor. They miss a lot of schools. They miss a lot of information. It could be health problems that cause that. Even their interest in school. You know, the kids who kind of start out with that poor attitude of I don't like it, so they shut down because of that. Many things can cause that.
So that's who our at-risk students are. Now, how do we find out who these at-risk students are? Well, we, as a district, bought a test, the Brookings test, and if
We have a copy of your folder.
We do. We have a copy of the folder, and if you look at the next slide, it shows you what it looks like. I'll flip down just so you can see what it looks like. This paper in your folder. This is how we tested the incoming kindergartners this year. So we already have data of who might be at risk in our district this year in kindergarten. If you take a look, we did MEC and we did AEC, so you can see the difference between the two schools. Above level is a score above 88. On level is a score between 87 and 61. Below level is below 60, and severely below level is below 38. Our numbers are pretty high for the below level and severely below level. Those are who we consider our at-risk students.
And if you look down, if you look at the information at the bottom, and these are our numbers as of 8/20, so it could fluctuate a little bit. We also have the numbers there of how many students we didn't have a chance to test. We would love the opportunity to do that so we can see all of our students and have this year, going into this school year, we have a year that we can take a look at our at-risk students and how our program now helps them. And at the bottom, there's a little more explanation of below level and severely below level and what that really means.
Basically what that paragraph says is the children who are severely below level could be students who we need to test for maybe a disability or a learning disability. So the severely below level may be children that would be in our special education program, but are still in need of our interventions, our help, our at-risk program. Do you have any questions, by the way?
And feel free,
please feel free to ask.
Talk as we go.
What did we using to test them? Were these scores?
This is called the Brigance test, and what we did was we had a team of wonderful teachers, support staff. We went through and had the children come in for a bus ride, and each room had a couple of different things that we tested. Can they write their name? Do they know specific letters? Can they count to a certain number? So in your folder, the paper that you got with the Brigance is actually right here. When you look at this, it tells you what specific skills we tested. And this is research-based, so when we went back and did the scores, it actually told us all of that information to show you this chart right here. So based on research, this is who our children are that are at risk.
Before they came to kindergarten here?
Before they came. And if you look at the top,
these kids are now going into first grade.
No,
these
they're
are
coming
coming
into
into kindergarten this year.
These are this year.
Yeah, so we wanted to get a baseline score so that you could see, and it's kind of good for us too because we would like to see where these children are going to go with us this year. And we did a 5-year child data sheet with them.
And getting this information helps us, helps the principals place them in classes, helps make groups of students, helps us right away we know we can kind of start, well, possibly might need that extra help from what this is saying. So we can kind of capture them this year right away.
The 13 are well below. You said some of them may have learning disabilities, but some of them, because some of your testing is the ability to write, the ability to identify learners, numbers, etc. Could it just be that nobody ever bothered showing them anything at all?
Absolutely. And that is why we consider them at risk, because we are looking at all avenues. You know, there are, and that paragraph actually goes into, there are different risk factors that you have to look at in deciding whether or not the child may need more support, and that's one of them. You know, did they have preschool? Did they have medical issues when they were younger? There are many different factors that we look at.
And we always, you know, yes, we know what children need extra help with this, but we always try many, many things first. You know, we do small groups, we do interventions. There's lots of things we give to the children before they're tested for special education. That in kindergarten, that's usually not. It's kind of like, let's give them a whole year of everything we've got before we usually look into that, unless the parent.
So those numbers that read up there, they're the income collect.
They are.
The ones that tested that way last year, they followed
not
this
test.
like
This test is new.
Oh, you didn't test last
This
year?
is new.
We just purchased, or
Assuming,
we just purchased this. Yes.
assuming you had a percentage that fell into those different parameters last year, they're going to first grade this year.
All right. So what is the goal of our at-risk kindergarten? To fill in the learning gaps by using extra time to support, which will allow the students to catch up to their peers. As I had explained it to Mr. Martino, each child, when they go through school, is building a brick wall. And as they are learning the skills that they need, their brick wall gets higher and higher. Unfortunately, there are some students who come in without background knowledge or behind their peers, and if we are not able to give them the support that they need, we have holes that start to come up into their brick wall. And as they go through their schooling, We are trying to fill in the holes from the bottom to the top, whereas many children are building a solid wall. A question was asked, why do we still have reading intervention in middle school? Because we are still going back and trying to fill in some of those holes. So this program is actually one that we feel will help us to build that solid brick wall for many of our students because they might not have that background knowledge. They might not have been worked with when they were younger. So we are actually looking to try to put this program in place to give everyone a good head start and catch them up to their peers.
Right, because right now, we have great programs in place with the reading and the math and different interventions, and there's great research-based programs being used, and small groups being pulled, and every minute is being used in the school. But the idea of this is to catch them, give them something more before it even begins. You know, yes, we have this test that says these students really are missing something. There are these holes, they're behind their peers in some way. So why not offer them something extra from the beginning to hope that it's not just constantly a catch-up game, but let's start giving them extra time and support way down at the bottom to fill that in. So boom, when they get to first grade, the hope is they're at an equal playing ground with that same wall because they had more extra time and support, and their other peers need less of the time and support to get to that same place.
So now we're going to look at what the day might be in our at-risk classroom compared to what our kindergarten classroom is right now. Class sizes we would hope would be approximately 15. In our kindergarten classes, there was discussion, they might be lower than that, but right as of last year, they were about 22. Our math instruction, in a given week, we would have 300 minutes in the at-risk kindergarten program, giving those children more time to grasp the skills, to be able to practice. In kindergarten, we do it 3 days a week, and it's about 120 minutes a week that we get to our math program. Our small group reading, which would be our guided reading, we actually read a book at the children's level. We would do that every single day, 300 minutes a week in an at-risk kindergarten, whereas in our kindergarten classes now, we do about 180 minutes, which is about an hour for 3 of those days.
And then whole group ELA is the English language. And your English language arts. That's your whole group reading. That's your phonemic awareness. You're making the letters and sounds and knowing what the letters are and making words. And pretty much all of your whole group reading stuff includes lots of different things. You'll see those numbers are similar. That's because we have to get the core curriculum out now. You know, either way, that same amount of information has to get out to them. So that whole group time is similar. But as of now, if we have interventions and we get groups pulled, that's where it's getting pulled from. Where with the at-risk kindergarten, we have a separate intervention time, a separate half an hour, which would then build into an extra 100 minutes a week as a student downloading rather than for 20 minutes a day, I guess what I'm thinking. For that extra intervention, something that, again, to fill those holes in. Okay, we have to teach, they have to learn all of this kindergarten stuff, but they also have to learn the pre-kindergarten stuff too, so we need time for that as well. Writing, the at-risk kiddos could write every day. Give them time to practice their writing every day. Right now we do it about 2 days a week. The writing is what the whole...
We do centers 3 days a week, we do writing 2 days a week, whereas for the at-risk kindergarten, our hope would be that they would be able to do it every single day, both reading and writing, so that they could have that time to catch up to their peers.
And the encore classes, we have the regular kindergarten have gym once a week, and the at-risk kindergarten would be exposed to all of the different, the music, the art, the computer, the gym, the library, and also the hopes that our encore teachers do a wonderful job of piggybacking and supporting what's being learned in the classroom. So they can be incorporating the skills that are being done in the classroom, and then also getting exposure to some of those things that students might have less exposure in.
So art, maybe they're working with letters, maybe they're creating letters, maybe they're making a collage of pictures that start with that letter. I think we could kind of weave in the learning into that area also.
And then there's a really neat program that again, the school district already owns, the LLI. We have that, and it's being used in 1st and 2nd grade, and for some of the kids that need that. It's a program that speeds up the process of learning how to read. It kind of puts it fall behind. It gives them, they learn a bit quicker. It goes along with our reading program that we use also. And we thought that could be an extra program that could be used with these children to help them with their reading as well. That in other kindergartens, it might not need to be used. That support just wouldn't be necessary. And then at the bottom, you can see that the learning minutes, the difference that would be in the learning minutes. Again, giving the kids who need more, giving them the minutes they need in order to get to the same level that all of kindergarten will be at. That would be the goal.
So how will we monitor the progress of each student? The data is going to be very important here. We want to make sure that this is a program that's worthwhile, that we are sustaining a program, if you all like it, that we would be able to show growth, show progress, show that these children really is benefiting them.
And in your folder, we did try to include some things, because I know sometimes we talk about all of these words, the dibbles, the fonts, and so what we try to do is stick things in the folder so you can actually see it, because usually when you see it, your eyes are like, oh, this makes sense. So we put not everything or not the whole test in there, but little snippets to see. So something that all of our elementary students right now do is the dibbles test, and we just took one page snapshot. So you see that the dibbles is something that they're monitored with 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end.
This is research-based also.
And then what we do with the children that we're concerned about, about monthly, we monitor them in between to see between that September and January screening, are they making appropriate growth? If not, we need to do more. We need to change what we're doing. So that will be done with all kiddos, but including the at-risk kiddos. Also, we included in there our kindergarten screenings that are based on the Common Core standards. There's a screening in there that matches all of the standards. We just did that with our committee group. And that screening would be done 4 times a year. You can, again, see the growth that they're making throughout the year and making sure that they're on target to get to where they need to be at the end of the year.
On the front of it is actually the standards-based report card that we're going to be talking about, that we also will be using in order to communicate with the parents, but also keep track of the progress of each child.
We have the standards that we did have. Yes.
Pontus and Pinnell, there's a book in there for you. So
This is
be reading.
an end of kindergarten level reader. This is where we hope our kindergartners can be. We hope they're well beyond that, actually. But this is where we want all readers to be at the end of kindergarten to be on level. This is what a book would look like.
A typical book that we would, this looks like the books that we use to test. AimsWeb is for special education because there could be some children in this program that are from the BCIU that we'll talk about in just a couple minutes.
But anybody who has an IEP also gets monitored through AimsWeb, and that's through their special ed teacher that they're connected with. And then also with our Go Math that you were just speaking of earlier, we started, kindergarten is starting just this year, and the other older grades have been using it for a while, but we're just starting with the Go Math test, and that comes with chapter tests and also like an end of the year test. You can see if that they made the end of the year goals with their math as well.
So as you can see, we do a very good job of keeping data and making sure that every child is getting where they need to go. What will it cost? Well, we wanted to be upfront. We had discussed with many people, you know, what the possibilities are. Obviously, depending on how many sections everyone would think would be feasible, teacher salary per section. Aid support for the classroom would be beneficial. Potential busing across the district because of where children, if we would have that at one building, the children might be coming from a different part of the district. And the additional encores that we talked about, if they would get the encores, the gym, art, music.
And then what could help alleviate the cost? And we don't have this is something we would have to get more information from you. We reached out and we sent emails to the special ed department, but they're still kind of collecting that data. So what we're thinking is we have students that stay in the BCIU, they have the opportunity to stay an extra year. They can come or they can stay an extra year. And not that we would get paid money, but we pay for our students to stay there that extra year. Every child is a different amount of money because it's based based on their needs and what services they get. But every year, there's some students who choose to stay there versus come here. And this could maybe entice them to that maybe we can have an equal program to what they're getting, or even more. They can get all of the services they're getting there, and it would be a parent choice. You know, it's not a guarantee, but it could be something that, hey, we have this program that your child is being part of, and they might be interested in doing that, and then we wouldn't have that cost to pay the BCIU for that extra year. And then there's also, we don't know, of course, we didn't have a chance to look into this in the past couple of weeks, but potential grants that are out there.
And I did
there
speak
might
with
be money
people
for that.
about maybe trying to find grants that could help alleviate some of it.
What's an extra year student? I'm not clear about someone who took kindergarten, kindergarten twice?
Well, it's a child who is with our special ed program, who's at the BCIU, or developmental delay, you know, whatever their diagnosis is, they would stay there for an extra year.
But it wouldn't be a second grader or.
No, it's the ones coming into kindergarten.
Yes.
So they can stay, the early intervention children are there.
Start program though? If they get mapped in from.
It's part of early intervention.
Before they're in any school system, they're going to BCIU.
So they can, when
Okay,
they're.
so then we would have some competition with them for that. We'd say, okay, you can stay there another year, participate in that program, but maybe you'd be interested in our program here.
If we were able to meet their
Go
needs.
and.
Yes, if we were able to meet their needs, and if they would be interested in coming, like, it would all be based off of what that family would
Right.
want, because really,
It's no cost to them either way.
yes.
Right. But our
I see what you're
district
saying.
pays the BCIU to be giving them their services.
Who
for
pays
that
that?
extra year.
Who pays those services?
The school district.
School district.
The school district
Okay.
pays
Yeah.
the child to be
Services they need,
educated
so-
there for the
right.
year.
Whereas we could provide, you know, their
Thank you.
speech or, yep. And what's the timeline? The proposal that we had talked about is maybe a 3-year pilot to gather data over the course of 3 years in order to show the benefits of continuing.
Then we can, all this data that we have, and continue how they do in first grade, how they do in second grade compared to their peers, or even, you know, do they still fall behind? Do they make more progress than, you know, maybe this class coming in by the time they get to third grade? Are they close to on level? It'll be exciting to see.
At the earliest, the 2016-2017 school year, obviously it would take some preparation with, you know, looking into grants, talking to families, finding out, you know, what would it cost, obviously some decision making. So that would be the earliest that we would be able to do it. And then we thought we would leave you with a little bit of research, understanding that you can find research that goes either for you or against
All
you.
research goes both ways.
It does. But we found this and thought that it was, you know, it made a good impact with us. So we found a school in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the average student, the average kindergartner, was entering 22 months below grade level, and showed that the children in school in half-day kindergarten made an average gain of 5.4 months during that 9-month period, while the children that had the opportunity to go for a full day, get the extra minutes, actually made a 16-month gain. So those at-risk students that are coming in below level really were able to make a lot more progress and get closer to where the average kindergartner is.
And then the other study is our MEC. We are a Title I school. We have 80 students. So we're looking at Philadelphia has a study where a large of the 17,600 Philadelphia children who come from these low-income families, giving them that more opportunity, more time, and more smaller class sizes there for that at-risk type of class, that there was significantly less retention in first, second, and third grade. So it saves millions of dollars in that, as Mr. Rantino's question with those children having to be special ed, those 13 students. Well, filling in those holes, maybe less percentage of the kiddos would be tested for special education. Maybe we catch some of those things that would help before they fall behind.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Questions, information, we can find.
Do a little research on it, but I think a lot of times when you look at, like you said, studies go both ways. I think we've heard a lot of is that if you do have a full-day kindergarten for all students, a lot of times the boost they get, halfway was catch up on. but I think the studies are more clear on the at-risk kids as far as them getting, comparing if they get a half day versus the full day. They seem to retain, they do better, they don't,
Absolutely, because there's some students
If
who
you know what he's
leave
trying
us.
to say, you're way off.
I know exactly what he's saying, actually. No, but I mean, there's some students who leave and they go to a wonderful other place and lots of enrichment's done and they see the world. And they're going to get to them, we're going to get to no matter what. But then there's those kiddos that for whatever reason are not getting that. So they're the students that I feel like that extra time and attention by teachers and programs that we know work, if they get more time and attention with that, they're the ones that I
And they might not get mistakenly identified as special ed when they just start tuning out.
And so where they just might not have been exposed to the letters, they might not have heard the nursery rhymes, they might not have been read to every single night. You know, they could have parents who are working 12-hour shifts, and there's a lot going on in the kids' families. Health problems, the mother or father could be severely ill, things that are just kind of keeping them from.
And that's why that 3-year pilot is really, that's why we're proposing that, because we feel like, our children are different from any other child, anywhere else in our country. So if we can make a difference, then we'll show that in our pilot.
Yeah, I think that pilot is an excellent idea. Not only are our children different, but our program is going to be different. And this will be...
So we don't know who our at-risk kids are now, or do we?
Well, we do.
We do.
We have to do the same process next summer.
No, I mean, just these past classes.
Oh, right, to compare.
No, but we have this year to compare. If we want to take a look at this year
Yeah,
and
we'd
see
be
how
nice
that
if we
goes.
had some other year ago.
I know.
We don't have this test.
We have other,
We don't have, well, we have
I thought
other
we had others. I thought we had other
ways.
tests.
we always use dibbles
Right.
in the past.
So we have a different.
This year, we added a screener just to see.
So that should at least show us how the half day, because I know when Mr. Torture was doing it, we looked at, we only had full day for those couple of years, but really wasn't much, a heck of a lot of data. But maybe now that we have a few of these half years, we could then see versus the pilot, how does the half grade at-risk kids, how do they do
In this half-day
in
program.
this half day program for the
Yes.
past several years?
Yes. And the dibbles could be the indicator, because we do that, like we said, 3 times a year, and it does give us some of the data.
It was something interesting that with this test, the amount of students that came up as what would be an at-risk student, that percentage is similar to the percentage of what another system we use to find out who is at risk in our school and the fact that we were a Title I school. So the equation that they used for that came up to about 41%, and this came up, it was like, one was like 39%, one was 41%. So the percentages are actually similar from the test to whatever test is used to say that we're a Title I school, and the fact that we're needy for that. So I thought that was, I'm like, oh, that's kind of
And we also,
Interesting.
looking at those numbers, we don't actually require these kids to take that test. It's up to the parent.
They took it, the test they took was the people who came in on the buses. On the,
He's right. Every student who came to the bus ride
Okay.
got that. This is, we always kind of, when we had a bus ride, we'd always do fun little activities, do little things with them, just to kind of
We
see
got
where they are.
129 and the 177 took the test.
But
Well,
we
that's
actually
because the students who signed up this summer. They signed up after the test. So if we wanted
All
to
those
use
kids
this, and we would have to have, somebody would have to do that over the summer, give that same type of test to find out if they would be an
Yeah,
at-risk.
my concern there, we talk about parental involvement. The parents who aren't able to bring their children to the bus ride, I think those are the ones
Higher percentage.
who, yeah.
Don't even come into the
Yeah, so I think...
Well, and we talked to Mrs. Hector about possibly testing those children in the first couple days of school with
Okay.
our support staff, because we wanted to give some clear data from this year being all half day without an at-risk class.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's good information for us to help these students.
Absolutely,
we know
yeah.
that the first week of school, that these children, there's more chance that they're going to be struggling learners, and we need to start now.
That's
like
right.
we need to give them extra, talk to their parents. We are huge on like parent programs. We really love the kindergarten program. Help parents know how to help their children. Every parent loves their child, and they want to help. Not everybody knows how to help.
And that's something I wanted to
Give them
ask.
that information.
We had a lot of information in this packet here. Going along with the reading and the learning and everything that's happening in kindergarten, learning the letters, are there supplementary materials sent home to parents to back up the lessons that are happening in the classroom?
Kindergarten, I can talk for kindergarten,
Yeah.
I can talk for, but kindergarten constantly does.
Good.
We have a homework that goes home, they have a week to do it. Different families have different schedules,
Yeah.
so we do like a week basis, you can speak, and it goes along with our reading series. We also have a math paper, math at home, and this is what your child's learning in school, and this is how you can support that at home. We
We have a
also
parent night, and we get out an entire folder of resources.
Good.
I mean,
flashcardy things.
And
games
turnout
and
at that
activities.
parent night, is that strong?
we did have a very
Yes.
strong
Good.
turnout this year.
And we do certain incentives. We go out and we buy snacks, we have little raffle things. We also do, you can sign up for the time you want for the parent-teacher conference if you
You
come.
come.
And things like that, I'm like, I want the time I want, and first come, first serve, but if you don't come, you get what time's left. Because in kindergarten, we have 40-some students, so we don't have one free spot on our schedule. So if I have 8 o'clock p.m. left and you're the last person to sign up, so
Yeah.
I don't have flexibility.
I want to make one more comment, and then I want to figure out the direction we want to go on this. You mentioned earlier about some students making sure that they're getting the resources they need, and some students may not have the resources at home. I'm reading Sonia Sotomayor's memoir right now, and something that she talks about is how students who don't speak English as their primary language, they are often identified as being below where they should be, and that's not because they're intellectually handicapped, that's just because they don't know the language. And I do want to have a discussion in this committee at some point in the near future about achievement among our non-native English speakers. So that's something coming in the pipeline. But on that note, this obviously, this proposal for at-risk kindergarten and the pilot program will require some more work in the committee, and I think it would be good to continue developing it in the committee and continue to work on this. And
get a number from the business owners.
Yeah, obviously all of
Fit in
that,
next year's budget,
but
that's what we'll-
I don't want to, we'll report this back to the full board, but if we could work to try to have some type of solid plan to take to the full board for an up or down vote for next school year, I think that would be beneficial. I don't want to set a timeline necessarily to have that determination from the committee, but when the administration and the kindergarten staff are ready to make that program, I think will definitely be receptive in committee, and it's something that we'll keep looking at in the coming months. Is that something the committee wants?
Ken, I have a few thoughts.
Sure.
First, I want to thank you.
Yeah.
I can see the work you put into this from the time we first talked about it until tonight. So thank you. I think the timeline would have to be sometime between now and March, because it's about when you start your kindergarten enrollment.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're looking at that. I think the grant research needs to be done, because the more money we can get, the easier it is to say yes. As far as the late enrollees, you're back to what we just did with staffing. If based on your spring enrollment, if it says we need 2 classes of English kindergarten, and then come August, you get this rush of people that all qualify, you may not be able to get them in. I mean, you're going to have a cutoff for, my thought is you have to have a cutoff for the testing so that you can plan for it.
I would make the testing required too, if we can do that, so we don't have this issue of some students being tested and some having to wait
And
until
again,
later.
it's all on getting children to sign up for kindergarten.
Yeah.
They're calling this week for different reasons. I've talked to some people who just moved in. They're the departments, they just signed their lease. Some people didn't realize you sign up in March.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. Kindergarten starts in September, so this is when I signed up. They just, if you don't have other children in the district, you just might not be aware.
Yeah.
For various reasons. But we were thinking of using that information. There's different ways the committee can decide to use it. Do you give all the children those bottom 2? Do you have a certain cutoff score, like it says, whatever it was, 67 or below? Do you
Below,
go 50 or
severely
below?
below.
Do you just say the bottom 30? I mean, there's different.
Yeah, we're going to have to work all of that out, but I think this is a really, really good start, and we'll have our work cut out for us, and everybody will, to make this a reality.
We're talking about starting a newsletter, and I think
Yes.
for the winter version of the newsletter, that would be a good thing to have in there, that kindergarten enrollment is such and such a thing. The other thing you can do is if you can have someone contact the realtors in the area, that as they sell a house, here's your school district information. I don't know if you really do that, but I mean, that could be a help too. Your presentation probably at some point have to be made to the full board if the committee goes forward with it. So,
Absolutely, and if there's anything, more information you give us, we can help in some way, or something we can add to it if it went that far.
Just real quick, how long did the testing take to complete Clifford Dance? And was it kind of fun for them? Am I wrong?
It is
It's
fun.
kind of
So
when
what
they
we
do
do
like those games
is-
and then.
Yeah, each room, they do
Sometimes
one
big
or two
testing.
skills and then something fun. So one had like Legos and you write your name and you count. Another one was you play with Play-Doh. Another one was you have a snack. So like
Work it
everything was
right in
something
while you're doing
exciting.
assessment of them.
And then they
About
just
an
get pulled
hour?
over. The testing is one-on-one. Like they get pulled over.
It was about
About
2
2 hours.
hours.
Is it 2 hours?
And they also had the parents, the teachers work with the parents while the other children.
So we just
So
have
they
to
had
run it.
captive audience.
And this was the first year we got to talk to them so early, because usually we meet with them in August, you know, and it's kind of like, ooh, we wish we would have told them this in the spring, because they can work with them over the summer, and this was the year that we had to do that. You know, your child should know a lot of the letters coming into kindergarten. Your child should be able to write their name coming into kindergarten. You know, when you look at what our standards are in kindergarten, they have a long way to go.
They do.
So I think the more knowledge the parents have up front, they want their child to succeed. So that could help as well. So I'm eager to see with them having all the information.
Right.
And it was nice because the kids were there and the parents were there, so we used that 2 hours.
Very efficient.
Give one additional caution, I know we talked about the grants and whatnot. I'm sure for the full board, the question will come up, how long does that grant last?
Yes.
So is it only for a year, does it go away, or is it a renewable grant? Is it,
I think the celebration probably needs to wait for a 3-year pilot.
Yeah. All right, well, we need to move on. Thank you so much again, and we're going to keep working at this, and hopefully we'll come to a great conclusion. Next up, elementary report cards, and we don't have too much time left, so if we can keep the next items brief, and if we need to go into them at the next meeting, we can definitely do that, no problem.
I can keep it really brief.
Very good.
We just wanted to share with the CNI, with the committee, that for years we have been wanting to, well, we knew we needed to change and update our report cards at the elementary level. Most districts move to what we call a standards-based report card, or a report card that's based on the standards several years ago. And we decided that we wanted to start in kindergarten. So this year, the teachers, and I know both Johanna and Kim were some of the teachers that really worked hard on this. They had been asking, could we please have a report card that reflects what we're teaching? Because the report card and what they were teaching were two different things. So I did bring a copy of the report card to share with you all.
I did put one in the group over.
Is it? Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, should have told me. Well, if anybody else wants one or needs one, just wanted to share it with you.
All right, and we're going to need to approve that then as a full board if we're going to be changing the report card format, I imagine.
This is what you're proposing.
And this is kindergarten. This is a proposal, but this is
This is only for
a
kindergarten.
finished product for kindergarten.
Are we going to be looking at changes for
First
one?
through fifth.
Okay. Can
And
we,
So it's still the same system of meets standard, but just broken out into the more specific area.
it is broken down a lot more specifically so that you can tell exactly what kids are able to do. The grading criteria are also a little bit different. And kindergarten itself is a little bit different than grades 1 through 5 will look. So,
in terms of approving these and at the committee level and then at the board level, can you bring us all of those in a packet almost together
finished.
when they're finished?
yes.
Yeah, so we can do it all in one clean,
Absolutely.
okay. And when would you need to have that done by?
Well, I would think it would be a year-long process, so
Okay,
maybe May.
all right.
I might not meet some of the criteria on this.
Yeah.
It says listens attentively, I'm not sure that, I might,
Yes.
yeah, I might not pass it. It's my wife who said it.
Everything you
Well,
learn in kindergarten.
Mr. Radke could practice that after the meeting because we have to move along. But civics at DBHS, Mr. McKnight. I don't know if the battery is in that.
Quickly and briefly, I'll send the schematic in a PDF. We've essentially taken the high school student government model. Mr. Bailey and I are kindred spirits on this topic, and I want to see it grow. I think it's nice for the adults to move to the side and let the students really run as far as they can with the system. So he and I have developed a model from roughly around 26 students being involved, kind of almost isolated. We're over 100 students involved, like growing the student council model. We're in Pennsylvania Student Council. And then there'll be 3 sessions at large state with C-SPAN and a full congressional session for students to present to the committee. We're trying to involve the budget to vote. So we can practice many of the things that we talk about in the DOD class, but bring it to life.
That's great.
The degree will coincide with the main primaries. Now, the class elections will happen every month like that. So it's talking about contextualizing what they're learning in class and bringing it forward with the into.
That's excellent.
And taking at least 1 in 10 of our students will be fully engaged in the student government model. Probably much bigger because we'll speak about it in homes and go forward. So that's a brief update there. I'm going to share that out. It's just I know that's been a topic for this board that wants to see the civics model grow. It's a relatively cost-free model. We already have student government. It's not taking curriculum time. It's not taking instructional time. We already have a student government advisor. So it's just a broadening the model. So,
perfect.
Thank you. You know, there, to dovetail along with the kindergarten piece, credit recovery issue is something that I'm really got to because it's actionable probably in the next month or two. One of my concerns, policy, administrative guideline number 116 is where you need to look at summer school. Currently, our model is that it feels to me, in looking at our summer school model, it's punitive. It's costly. The students, about $300 per cost. It's also costly to the district to a certain extent. 5-year student, right now, when a student fails a course, they don't get at least a 40%. They're not allowed to take summer school. Thereby, let's use math as our example. They're not allowed, if they fail Algebra 1, they're not allowed to take summer school unless they have at least a 40%. Then when they go, if they don't go to summer school, they're automatically a 5th-year graduate. We're roughly around $14,000 per student. Because if they come back for the 5th year, okay, which we have one of the lower graduation rates in the area right now, 88%. School districts like us and near us are in the 91 to 97% range. So when we dug in, I started asking guidance, who are these kids and where are they going? About half of our kids who are not graduating in the full year cohort as the state changed the model. In the old days, if you're not aware, we started 9th grade with 1,000 students. As long as 1,000 students graduated, they didn't have to be the same students who got 100% graduation. It's not the model anymore. The model now at PD and our SPP is by name for those students make it out in 8 semesters. So our very design is forcing kids into the 9 and 10 semester. All right, so that hurts our SPP score. It also costs the district money to educate them in the year. So looking at that model of credit recovery kind of illustrates the points where it's kind of punitive. Just we should never be punishing kids with education.
Yeah.
And I think we all agree with that. That's not a good model. So how do we give these kids, the chance to either double up during the school year or in the credit recovery model? My recommendation of what I want us to consider as a group is as soon as they cross that threshold of not possibly mathematically passing a course, we offer the opportunity for credit recovery. We do that through a credit recovery lab, which I think replaced the station as in the school suspension where we have students being monitored anyway, or in guidance, where we have computers for them to build. Also, I'm sure we'll get to the Media Resource Center later, that will have computers as well. The point is that we have Compass Learning now. It's a great reference to the water to be supported with no additional cost than what we're already spending. Now we're spending roughly in the summer $15,000 to $20,000 to run summer school. Okay? Most of that is recovered by tuition fee, not all of it. So it's something definitely to dive in front of. This summer school model is not working, and it's costing the district a sufficient amount of money. Back to the point, 14% of their kids that they listed were severely below grade. Our dropout rate is 12%. If we invest that extra money down there at the kindergarten level, maybe we reduce that number and cut it in half. It's basically about funding.
And that's not just talking about graduation, that's lives that are completely altered. And yeah, and we're talking about a 5th year. How many of those students drop out instead of doing that 5th year?
It's about half, that's what I'm saying. Out of
Yeah,
12%,
wow.
We're tracking it out. I think it's about half of the kids come back in that 5th year model, and half just drop out. So yeah, you're right on both accounts. Where are we leaving these students that had just dropped because they couldn't double up and recapture credit?
So in terms of making this into the credit, in terms of adding the credit recovery program formally into the high school system, what is the next step? Are you going to bring us a proposal that we can vote on and take to the board?
I want to bring it to the table, the
Good.
idea, and see where we want the idea or not. And then I'll flush up a full proposal, for the September or October meeting. Really, our action time would probably be the end of the 3rd quarter. That's about when students become eliminated from passing the course. So if we have the credit recovery lab in function by then, so some of them will happen in the 3rd quarter. The other byproduct, I can tell you, is students who are eliminated from passing the course tend to become behavior problems.
Yeah.
So keeping them engaged, it's a win on all levels.
Yeah, well, I definitely think we want to move forward on that. So next meeting or October on your timetable, we'll bring that up. All right, public comment on any of the items we discussed under curriculum and instruction. If there isn't any, we will adjourn. No public comment. All right, this meeting is adjourned at 7:25 p.m.